Europe is 4 o'clock, Central European summertime. So we are opening the second global location number industry webinar. What does GLN modernization mean to you? I'm Henk-Jan Timmerman from GS1 in Europe, and I'm hosting this session together with Amber Walls from GS1 US and Nicolas Pauve from GS1 France. I welcome you all. Very happy to have you here. We have some guest speakers who we will announce later on during the meeting. Of course, with all GS1 meetings, the GS1 Competition Law Caution is applicable. GS1 operates under the GS1 Competition Law Caution. Strict compliance with competition laws is and always has been the policy of GS1. The best way to avoid problems is to remember that the purpose of the group is to enhance the ability of all industry members to compete more efficiently. This means there shall be no discussion of prices, allocation of customers or products, boycotts, refusals to deal, or market share. And if any participant believes that the group is drifting towards impermissible discussion, the topic shall be tabled until the opinion of council can be obtained. The full caution is available via the link below, and if you would like to read it in total, you're more than welcome. This session is being recorded, so people can see the recording there as well. If you don't want to be recorded, then I urge you not to speak. Although for the etiquette of this meeting, we will have no time really to answer questions, so we will go over all the topics that we already have. If you have any questions, you can submit these in the chat, and then we will try to answer them on the spot, or otherwise we'll get back to you. You can also submit questions through the link in the chat to a Google document where we will also record it and get back to you later on. The agenda for today: why GLN, changes in the works, and then mainly the standards. That's where Amber will be presenting. Then how improved standards and solutions support industry. Here we have some industry speakers, so very excited about that. And then progressing towards an open registry where we will go into the value proposition and especially the business case and all the use cases that have been already created for the MVP. Some technical terms, so we'll start slowly. I'm very happy to see this morning, I did not update it this afternoon, that we have 888 registrations. So not everyone will be joining, but some of the people might be asking for the recording. So, but at least people are very interested in GLN. And later on, I've checked even that we have 915 registration already. So it's still counting. 71 countries, so it's a real global effort. So very happy with that. The graph that you see below is a bit of where we are coming from, or in which sectors we are active in. If it's readable, the most right part is other, so that's all of it. Possibly some of them are GS1 colleagues, and the other top is the orange one, which is the FMCG food. But every sector that we have requested in the form is available, so it's a great result already. To start it all off is a quick poll, and here my colleague Emma will launch it in a moment. So the poll is: how familiar are you with GLN? And a few answers there. I am new to GLN. My company uses GLN internally only. My company actively uses GLN with trading partners. My company uses a GLN registry to share GLN data with trading partners, or I work for GS1. So.
And the poll is launched and coming in. Right now we're about 50% voted, so we'll give this a few more seconds for everyone else to submit their answers. And right now this is looking very similar to this morning's poll in terms of mix of familiarity and also those with GS1. Okay, so we're at 85%, so I'm going to go ahead and end the poll and share the results. So this group's a good mix, and this is what we're really seeing across the ecosystem with familiarity with GLN. A lot of those looking to engage with it to meet their party and location needs haven't worked extensively with it in the past. So we're going to make sure throughout this presentation we kind of make sure we explain our acronyms and also create some baselines for those who are new users. So thank you very much, and let's get into kind of creating that baseline. So the GS1 system of standards is certainly a system based off of three primary categories of identification, capture, which is our data carriers, and then our various share mechanisms, so GDSN, EDI, EPCIS. Throughout this system of standards, at the core of it is unique persistent identification. And that's really what global location number is all about. So when talking about what is a GS1 identification key, what is GLN, the purpose of these is to provide, once again, that unique persistent identification that can be used in information systems and processes to act as a proxy to whatever you're representing. So we have identification keys for trade items with G10, logistics units with SSCC. And for the purpose of global location number, it identifies parties and locations. So that's going to be legal entities, physical locations, functions like IT departments, and so forth. So now that we have that base of what GLN is, let's talk about why it matters and why we're really all here today and we're seeing such a response to this. Really, it comes down to the who and where of industry, or the who and where of business really makes a difference. You can only get so far with product identification. And what we've really found throughout the last 18 months to 2 years of research is the increase of very quality interoperable product data is not meeting the use case needs. We have to expand beyond the what to who and where to round out the requirements to address the concerns of industry members. And really the call out from everyone is we need a way to connect everything together. There are systems that cannot talk to each other. There's proprietary solutions which are becoming more and more disruptive as the way business needs to operate and changes. And then lastly, it just has to be a standardized solution. And what we're looking to do with global location number and what this project and overall program is all about is taking a step back and having a holistic approach to not what GLN is, but what is a party and location use case and how can standards support making those needs work for industry through standards. So getting into that really important piece about the need for identification to be persistent. What I mean by that is when you look at a piece of identification now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, or something from 20 years ago, it makes a difference what that's tied to. And currently, global location numbers can be reused after a designated amount of time in certain industries. The standards work that's been taking place in the GS1 GSMP has already ratified the wording and standards around GLN non-reuse, which is going to take effect July 1st of 2022. And this is to ensure that when you're looking at location and party records, it's not going to be muddied up. You're going to have a very clear representation of what's being talked about. So if you have to look at traceability information, provide documentation for regulatory compliance, look at trade partner records, you'll always have that singular source of truth for what's unique. Other things that the standards group is working on is ensuring that the basis around what a global location number is, who assigns it, what it identifies, and what changes prompt you to allocate a new GLN are all very clear and straightforward. A lot of the standards work was done quite a while ago, and we really need to go through this modernization effort, take the best practices that we've learned, scope out the existing use cases, and ensure what the standards are stating, plus the support guidance, is really representative of what the market needs are now and in the future, and also very easy to understand. So a good example of that and something that is currently being worked on. So if you have interest, I'll provide the information later to connect with the GSMP work, is what's being done with the GLN allocation rule standard. So currently the standard has about 39 pages of content. It goes back and forth between different pieces of party versus location versus physical location. And it's missing some key elements that industry members have really found useful in working through the G10 questions as it relates to trade items on these principles. So we've went from 39 pages of content to 14 pages of much more concise, clear details on what changes prompt an organization to need to assign a new GLN. Also, the guiding principles were introduced that align very clearly with the G10 management ones, so that if you don't have your exact situation covered by a rule, there's these principles that will act as your guiding star to making decisions based on your specific scenario and business needs. And then lastly, we're down to 8 rules that speak to when a GLN change is needed and when they aren't. And this is something too that we're going to be looking to continue to create education train material on and do some online tools to support this once the standard is fully ratified and stable, so that we can make sure that what we're creating represents the standard and is also going to be fit for use for different stakeholder groups who need to interact with this information. So possibly the biggest game changer of all of this GLN work is the creation of a data model for GLN. So right now, we really don't have a unified data model for party and location information. We have pieces of it across our system, but we don't have that piece that's really fit for use for cross-sector, cross-market needs. So we've started with identifying all the industry use cases and gathering the business requirements, not looking at just healthcare or just a particular region, but at the core of party and location identification, how does this support industry, and been building off of that. We've also ensured that we're leveraging what already exists. If we have an existing solution, we're not doing duplication. We're ensuring that it's fit for use based on the business requirements and mapping things appropriately. So this includes existing standards from the Global Data Dictionary, elements from EPCIS, the GDSN, and also getting into ISO standards, the recent scan for transport work, and other elements that are really seeking to connect via this unified data model. Right now, the work group is in the stage of creating what's needed. Now that we know what exists and we have our framework identified, we're identifying codeless values that need to be added, making sure definitions are clear, and also providing examples so that if someone's looking at it, not only do they have the definition, they can see what that field value for that particular attribute needs to look like. And I want to emphasize that once this work's done, which we're targeting to have the first version published in October of this year, we're going to have continued process to expand these attributes based on industry needs. So this isn't a one and done piece. It is designed and intended to be extensible and develop over time. So really, why does having a data model make a difference? And we've talked about the elements of it and the importance of unique identification. What a data model does is it takes that unique identification and gives it meaning. The GLN itself, or the G10, or any identification number is just a number until it's associated with something. That standardized attribution is what gives it meaning and value and allows for the information associated with these parties and locations to be readily shared across systems in a very interoperable, scalable way. And this is something that is really going to be the game changer as we get into talking about some of the services and solutions later on here. And what's on screen now in the orange boxes are some of the attributes. This isn't extensive or exhaustive that are scoped for the GLN data model. While these won't be all mandatory or all in every system or platform, these are things that users will be able to use to identify their parties and locations and answer some of the questions like, where is my shipment? Was it sustainably sourced? Where are these things coming from? So I'm going to kind of just walk through a couple of these and what they contain for some context, and before we turn it over to some other folks to talk about this. So with legal and location name, you have your legal entity name. You might have a doing business as. You may have local language variants as well. We're going to make it so that it can all be connected and shared interoperably. Also, roles, function, status, and purpose. What is this building? Is it a distribution center? Is it a grocery? Is this a dock door, an RFID read point? Making sure that what something is very clear and using standardized codeless values. Also getting into, is this an IT department? Is this a farmer? What is their role and function? Status is going to be things like, is this facility under renovation? Is it temporarily closed? And other pieces that need to be shared. throughout this work, we found that a lot of physical locations are kind of constrained to be identified by an address. But in the real world use cases, we need coordinates and XYZ axes, polygons, geofences, and other ways to describe a physical location beyond just the address itself. Contact details are very critical for a lot of these, especially if you're trying to track down where a shipment is and get information. Contact details, something as simple as that really isn't mapped well now. Certifications, so is this facility halal? Is this organization certified as using ethical sourcing and ethical labor practices? That's all within scope. Collaborative identifiers is another one that is going to be a really big game changer in terms of connectivity throughout the parting location ecosystem. A lot of companies, and I'm sure ones on this call, have trading partner or local or global regulatory requirements to use certain identifiers. They're not going away, and GLN's not looking to compete with them. What we are looking to do is have the mapping exercise in place through these standardized attributes so that you can look up, based on a DUNS number or an LEI, the corresponding GLN, and get the attribute associated with that as well, and integrate in some of those other components into the GS1 system. Logistics requirements are going to be things like, will this truck fit? What do I need to do in order to deliver to this facility? The relationship and ownership between party and locations, what's the hierarchy look like? Who actually owns this facility if it's not the organization allocating the GLN to it? And then also things like images, which could be as simple as a map to a location or having a 3D mapping of the space for specific use cases. So a lot of things to come there. And what we're working on now as well, now that the standards work and some of the registry pieces are beginning to stabilize, is creating the support materials around it. So everyone's been doing a great job with global location number and the work, but this modernization effort's really changing the way this looks and feels. So what we're starting with is internal toolkits and training for GS1 staff. So no matter where you are in the world and who you're talking to, you can get a consistent message and the latest information on what's happening, so you can make appropriate business choices and also, engage where it has value to your organization. This is going to include trainings, presentations, and webinars based on core sets of materials that anyone can grab and use based on what their need is and their audience. We're modernizing the GLN value proposition to make it really clear how this fits in with modern business and certain categories that have interest, and taking the step 2 to create business-friendly, quick overviews of digestible information that really summarize the key topics. So things like the allocation pieces, how extension components are used, and other things that we've really had a lot of questions of, which people just want that short piece of documentation. Another piece, a lot of you who are new to GLN might be starting to search for things and finding old documentation that might not be the latest and greatest. So we're also working to identify what exists, what's being used, and making sure that we map those to the newest versions and that we're not losing pieces of information that are going to be vital to communities. And then lastly, throughout the GLN work, we found that a lot of things involving GLN really aren't stuck to just party and location. And one of those is the need for an interoperability training. When we talk about data models and semantics and regular expressions and all sorts of other stuff, we're to the point within standards and business where a lot of these things that have always been housed more technically need to be brought forth to be more business friendly, so that we can really understand and convey and position how standards around GLN and anything really can support interoperability for your business and what that actually means.
Thank you very much, Amber, on this quick update on the standards and all the developments there on GLN. As announced already before, we have found some industry voices also available to share with us their vision, but also their expectations on the future GLN registry. Here we have Glenn Schei, the GLN manager from GS1 Norway, our colleague there, who will be speaking from their perspective with a long-lasting GLN registry already. And we will have welcome Florian Kriets from the PTV group, giving their opinions, but also showing a bit on the work that is done with the FENIX program, and Harry Schmeids, director from Fresh Upstream, who will give the vision for the AGRO supply chain. So with that, I would like to give the floor to Glenn Shire. Welcome, and take it away.
Thank you, Henk, and thank you, Amber, for a good presentation. My name is Glenn. I'm the GLN manager for Norway, and I'm happy to say that we have 30 years of experience with our local database. The first GLN was already assigned in the 80s, so that's a long time ago. We want to share our insight with you and try to explain some of the benefits with the use of the GLN. We are ready to upload our database to the global database so we can share the same information. And I'm happy to say that we have 150,000 GLNs in our database today. I want to read this text to you because I think it explains the GLN in a good way. GLN gives efficient flow of goods and information between trading partners. In electric commerce, GLN is used to identify legal entities and physical location. With the help of GLN, companies can easily share information with each other. Names, addresses, and other details only need to be exchanged once and not on each individual business transaction. The information is stored in a database and GLN is the link to the information. I think it's a very good text, so I want to share that with you. Just to highlight some from our sector. GLN is used by all sectors in Norway. And in some sector is also the mandatory use. I can say that the grocery sector have a mandatory almost every location in that sector. I can also say that in public sector is a lot of GLN use, and in construction is a lot of EDI use. But I think they will go on with also for their locations. And in healthcare, I'm very happy to announce that we have an order this year for 300,000 GLN in that sector. So that's very promising. And in others, like for example, wine and the spirit industry is also mandatory use of the GLNs. Okay. I want to split the benefits of the GLN registry in four different parts. One is the one source of GLN information. The database can be one source for all, and that gives the possibility to update customer information to all. And of course, that's identification of location, legal entities, and physical location. I also split it in delivery because it gives the opportunity to have optimized delivery planning for all carriers. And the GLN ensures pickup and delivery of goods from and to the location. And of course, all this together gives a good delivery quality. And also the EDI, electronic interaction with all trading partners. I just highlighted the four most used one: order confirmation, dispatch advice, and invoicing. And I think invoicing is a lot used in Norway with EDI. And the most important, I think, is traceability. GLN enables digital traceability between all links in a value chain. Identification of all location and parties. And what we need for the future for our Norwegian members, it's some of our members do business across Europe, and they have some challenges today with location outside Norway. These members need a global database where they can find the GLN they want to use for their trading partners. And of course, the solution is a global GLN database. So we are really looking forward to it, and our members are watching this. So take it away.
Thank you very much, Glenn. And it's great to hear a bit of those insights from maybe the world's longest GLN registry that there already is, and looking forward to connect it on a global level.
Thank you.
With that, we go to our second speaker, Florian Kriech from the PTV Group. Welcome, Florian. I have not seen you
I'm here.
yet. Okay, good. Perfect. Welcome, and take it away.
Okay, thank you for having me. Thank you for the introduction. So my name is Florian Kriech. I work for PTV Group. PTV is a software and consulting company, and PTV is a wholly owned subsidiary of Porsche SE. Our mission is shaping mobility of people and transportation of goods for a smarter and cleaner future. So some key figures are presented here on that slide. Please have a quick look at it. So together with GS1, we are in a project called FENIX. And what is FENIX? Well, FENIX is a large-scale European-funded project that tries to overcome the fragmentation and lack of interconnectivity of digital systems, so to say. And FENIX tries to achieve that by a federation of existing IT platforms in the field of transport and logistics. Thereby, harmonization and interoperability of services plays an important role. The demonstration of all these outcomes takes place at a European scale in 11 pilots along the 10T corridor network. And while each pilot has its own specifics, like use cases, IT maturity, and so on, there are some services that are made available for the whole project. And the routing service is one of these. And here's where GS1 is coming into the game with the GLN. So talking about services and interoperability, standardization, well, plays also, of course, an important role. And scanning through the opportunities, we identified together with GS1 the joint routing use case between GS1 and PTV around the GLN could be very beneficial for the project and everyone, because it has a high potential and high impact to the overall industry there. So the main idea is to use GLN codes within the routing service of PTV, which is to be delivered within the project. So here you see one example how it will look like. As you see, locations like origin and destination already have GLNs in place, and you see then in the third bullet point that truck routing is from GLN to GLN. So this is quite beneficial because it's absolutely unambiguous, right? So there are no errors. If you have a defined GLN from and a defined GLN to, then there will be no error. And this is very, very useful. Within the project, we not only address road transport, but we also address intermodal transport with, for instance, trains or ship. And here we are looking into an extension to introduce then GLNs to these use cases. Last slide, advantages and expectations. We have always the issue that unambiguity is an issue. And there is, of course, this GLN approach, which is, of course, beautiful. And if this would be available as one source, hosted by one party and updated or maintained by the owner of the locations, this would be absolutely beautiful. And this would increase data quality and happiness of transport planners and everyone in the industry. So I just looked up the rule of thumb from one of my colleagues. We spotted like 15 to 17% of the master data entries in regards to location data is not complete or wrong or outdated. So this problem can be overcome by using the GLN. Thank you.
So that's very promising. Thank you very much. If we can reduce that error part with from 70% to 0%, that would be great. So thank you very much for giving the insight in what the global GLN registry can do for you and your solutions, and for, of course, software solutions such as yours. Thank you very much. And with that, we go to our last external speaker, is Harry Smijts, the director from Fresh Upstream. I've seen you already, so welcome, and happy that you are with us.
Thank you, Jan. Great to be there in this talk this afternoon here from the sunny Netherlands in the middle of the tulips. It's a little bit cold and sunny over here, but it's the time, and it's nice that you are there, but it would be better if you would be with us, but that's something else. I'm going to tell you something about our opinion on how GLN could change and must change the agro supply chains, because in our industry we have some challenges, and I'm going to talk to you on that. Let me say first that as an industry, the agro supply chains have a big challenge in food security. We must make it possible that we have zero hunger by 2030. That's our challenge. And you know, where we have growing people around the world, that will be a big challenge. But we have other challenges like the Sustainable Development Challenges of the United Nations. When you look at those challenges, you see that almost 10 or 12 of them are directly connected to agriculture. So agriculture has a huge challenge in there to fulfill all those things together. And often that's connected to location. And within that, we have a nice thing that is our chicken and egg supply chain, because without the chicken, no egg, and without an egg, no chicken. And that's what we see. We have a complete integrated supply chain, which we must have connected from end to end. But there are other things. For instance, the things we have a circular challenge. We have to close the circular economy, especially in our industry, where we are combining plant and animal elements in that supply chain. That has also some troubles with them, I can assure you. And there also location is a huge issue. But of course we have the certification issues. We have more and more certificates on our planet about the produce we make, the products we make, for instance, and also GLN is coming up in that industry. I'm happy because also a global gap number, a GGN, is technically a GLN from GS1 Germany. And we have more other things because there are some technical opportunities. Let me talk a little bit about sensoring. And sensoring gives us a huge challenge where we can go not just from crop management, but we can go into single plant management. But single plant management means you have connected to the location on the farm, on the field, on the tree. On the other side, we have robotics coming in, where we have to be connected to, for instance, the individual animal. And also there is the location of the stable, and which part of the stable you are in is of course very important. Let me move on. Of course, we have great opportunity by blockchain and other technologies which are on the market for tens of years, by the way, let me say that, to tell our story. We can tell our story to the consumers, where our products are coming from, where they were and where they have been. But of course, we have the end challenge is that we have to produce safe food. And that's our biggest responsibility. And also there is location a very big issue. And that's not only on the fact at the end of the supply chain, but also on the input industries we have in our industry. Think on the animal feed industry, think on the mineral industry, think about the crop protection industry, and think about the medication industry for our animals, which are all individual supply chains who have to be connected to the farm. And also there, location is a big issue. And when you then go to location and you take this picture of the consumer goods forum and you try to count how many locations are connected to one pizza, you know the real challenge we have. Well, because before all those slices of salmon pepper or pork pepperoni or something like that, there are maybe 6 farms. There can be feed, there can be medications and things like that. So for us, there is one thing crucial. We need a unique global identification system for location. And I'm very glad Florian also mentioned that the fault rate he sees in logistics with 15% in traceability and tracking and tracing, we cannot afford to have any fault rate. It must be clear. And so we need that international standards like GLN, which we should organize, as I said again, not national, but international. Let me say often in the Netherlands when guys ask me, Harry, why do you say this? I say, guys, I didn't see grow mangoes in the Netherlands. I didn't see grow bananas in the Netherlands. I didn't see herds walking from Argentina beef in the Netherlands. We are in a global industry, so we have to make it global. So let's move on, Hank, to what does it mean for what we need from GLN. We need from GLN a data model, and Amber was talking already about it, where we can connect all those sublocations, because it must be a connected data model. We have to connect the farm, the stable to the farmer. We have to connect, for instance, the field to the farm. And we have, because all those interconnections between these locations are needed. The GLN must be globally unique. That's for me totally no discussion. And it must be verified and trusted, because we need it for it must be regulation compliant, because we need it in our regulation discussions with our governments. And of course, we need a global registry. And again, I say it again, I cannot say it often enough, we know national is no option. Ladies and gentlemen, this was my pitch for now. If you want to know more about what we are doing in the Netherlands in Fresh Upstream together with GS1 Netherlands on opening up the data and the digital supply chain of agriculture, be my guest and connect to us. My name is Harry Schmeitz. I'm program manager of Fresh Upstream, and I had the opportunity to work since 2003 in GS1 on all kinds of challenges in the agriculture area. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Harry, and thank you very much, Florian and Glenn, for joining us on this webinar. As you can see here, global industries have spoken, but there's more, and this is something that Amber will elaborate a bit more as well.
Thank you, Henk-Jan, and thank you to our speakers. I think that what the group has outlined so far is a really good representation of the type of pain points that are very real and very critical being felt throughout different industries. And when we look at what's happening in terms of transport and logistics, the need to increase efficiencies, the need to increase quality data, looking at some of the fresh foods use cases in terms of material sourcing, if you're talking farm to fork in terms of food, recalls for pharmaceutical devices, all of these things incorporate the same core pieces, and that's being able to identify uniquely the who and where of business. So this has come across from all countries and all markets. We're seeing a lot of innovative use cases, GLNs being used for COVID tracking in Australia and New Zealand. In the UK and the US, it's very heavily tied into some of the healthcare regulations. And what this really comes down to is we can't look at this project and only look at one industry or one market. It has to really be fit for use to connect all of these industries together, because there is so much overlap. And the more that industry users and end users and those interacting or part of government agencies work towards this and collaborate with us on this project, the better it's going to be. And getting into the next point, on the registry work, we had a lot of conversations about, okay, wonderful, we have great standards in play we're working through, we're doing some things with the data model, but what's this lead to in terms of having a system, an actual solution to be able to share this? And throughout the GS1 ecosystem, we do talk a lot about things that leverage the GS1 Global Registry platform and like verified by GS1 other places, but we don't talk to that a lot. So Robert Bideman from GS1 Global Office was kind enough to put together a quick video to talk about what this really is and what we're looking to do before we get into the GLN specific details. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Robert Bideman, Chief Product Officer for GS1 Global Office. Managing and sharing information about products, entities, places, and things across their life cycle is highly demanded and increasingly essential, although we all know it's really complex and costly today. As governments and industry work to strengthen commitments to circular economies, as geopolitical borders change their relevance in a digital landscape, demand will increase for true end-to-end product lifecycle information to be shared across already complex data sharing ecosystems. The near constant flow of data about a product's lifecycle, including all of the data from upstream suppliers, manufacturing machines, transport networks, monitoring devices, asset tracking systems, regulatory information, and consumption data, will result in truly massive information that will be challenging for all parties to navigate into the future. But there are ways to simplify things as we look ahead into this future of data sharing. And one such simplification is to ensure that globally unique identities can be connected to basic information about those identities in a way that's easy to use. And for us, for GS1, this means the creation of authoritative global registries of identity. See, when someone mentions the Great Wall of China or the Eiffel Tower, everyone has a common understanding of what's being talked about. And while different people have their own levels of knowledge about these globally unique landmarks, some people have visited, some have only seen pictures. Most everyone generally understands the foundational identity of these landmarks. That's a simple example. But what about other things like products and locations and entities and assets? For these things, we have to work toward a future where every product, every location, asset, and entity have their own easily understandable and globally unique identity. Each of these things should have a basic ID card that contains core information that can be accessed openly and globally. It's these ID cards that can be used to help provide context and connection to deeper information about all aspects of a product or location or thing. So to do this across GS1, we've created the GS1 Registry platform, which is a set of authoritative registries of GS1 issued identity. And we started most foundationally with a registry for all the licenses allocated to industry from all around the world. Today, we have an authoritative registry of all the licenses, and we're working now to fill an authoritative registry with every GTIN, every product identifier, that's ever been legally constructed from more than 5 million licenses around the world. We also have a registry of brand source links to other deeper sources of data, and what's next is to bring a GLN registry to life, to again step change the value that these registries can bring to the industries that we serve all around the world. So the GS1 Registry platform provides a global backbone with high reliability, high availability. It enables the GS1 country organizations to deliver service locally to industry. And the GS1 Registry platform opens up the opportunity for us to develop and extend service components to help raise the tide of our service offerings all around the world, ultimately accelerating the speed at which global deployment can be effected. Today, we can all look to a future where real-world value is generated when the power of authoritative identity and global registries of those identities are used to address gaps in existing business processes. That's when we'll unlock the real potential of the GS1 system for and with industry. And bringing a GLN registry to life is a critical next step in this journey. Thanks.
Great, and thanks for that introduction on the GS1 registry platform and everything that it will be able to do. This is also something we have been working on as a team, a value proposition. So who is this for? And so with that, I'm so happy with all the turn up already today, but also the registrations, because we are doing it for you. It's the GLN registry. It will be for any organization, regardless of the market or industry or sector that you're in, looking to identify locations and or partners to meet business needs. As you can see here on the screen, we have prioritized some areas, but that does not mean that we are focusing on those alone. You've seen some of the examples already on the transport service efficiency, with the PTV group, their traceability, the fresh upstream parts. So and the regulatory compliance, it's all there, and it's all equally important, although we have to start somewhere. So there's a real need. There's a need for accurate and complete and global interoperable information about parties and locations, and this is stronger than ever. And it continues to really grow. And we need to ensure the transparency and the efficient flow of information and goods between the trading partners. And what GS1 has already been focusing a very long time is really on the what, for example, the products, the GTINs, and so forth. But it can only be so useful without knowing the who and where. So this is really what we are turning into, and that we can create the future solutions that will really help us increase in diverging the implementations there, and likely to add challenges to the global interoperability solutions in the future. So this is the clear need that is already out there. Of course, if there's a need, we also see some benefits, and here I'm going to read it a bit, because the GLN will be part of the suite of GS1 standard solutions and services that were developed and continue to evolve based on the priorities and the requirements of global industry. So this will be a global GLN registry with several benefits, such as that all stakeholders have the same understanding, there is a single point of truth, and we will make sure that companies can find each other and connect globally with their partners. The value proposition also goes into the reasons why, and here we have, well, we are introducing 3 topics really: the interoperability, innovation and choice, and guidance and education and support. And interoperability, this is the goal of any standard-based service, is to enable the interoperability. Having interoperable solutions means that businesses can speak the same language and freely exchange information in an efficient, automated and scalable way. Here the GRP will connect registries related specifically to party and location use cases, which while adding value to other areas such as product identification. The innovation and choice, here the thin layer of the party and location attributes in the GRP will be the main element. Some companies may have relatively straightforward use cases, while others have extraordinarily complex. So it will innovate and create a choice for this future solution. And then, of course, we will focus a bit on the guidance, education, and support. All the materials that we have been mentioning already at the beginning of the presentation by Amber on the support materials will be created also for the registry itself. So it's more than just technical documents that we need to work through. We will provide the clear guidance and education on the GLN registry as it will be developed. With that, I would like to give the word to a bit more business-oriented, the business cases, but also the use cases. And here we have Nicolas Pauvre. If I'm correct, there is no vision with Nicolas. So
yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, you have to do with me, but the voice is there, so that's the most important.
Yeah, at least you won't be offended by my face, and you will focus on the content. So sorry about that, and hi everyone. So yeah, there are basically 2 business cases that drives the design of the registry. So on one end, companies need to share their identification, the who they are, to partners in order to do business, to comply with market requirements. So for instance, let's consider a procurement manager of a retailer searching for the GLN of its supplier to proceed to an electronic order because it's a must-have for EDI. The registry will be the solution for him. Okay, and on the other end, company also need to share location information, the where of their location, in order to gain efficiency, get accuracy in their processes related to some physical location, like transport logistics. And here, let's consider a haulier searching for practical information about locations such as address, opening hours, security procedure, facility offered on site. The registry will be also the solution. Okay, so if you move on next slide, that's why I think we need to start working on an MVP that will possess enough features to satisfy the 2 business cases, but also to collect user feedback the soonest, and then continue improving the product. So regarding the features, we will focus in priority. Next slide will be maybe more, yeah, you will have a nutshell what we aim to provide to the market. Basically, there is 2 sides. It would be a 2-sided product. So one side you will be able to publish GLN and associate data by connecting to GS1 MO. And on the other side, the MVP will provide you a set of APIs to query the registry in order to retrieve the GLN by looking up party information, and also with a reverse lookup to retrieve party or location by querying the GLN. And we also think about retrieving extending information about locations that will be out of the registry, thanks to a redirection to an external database that would be indicated by the data provider. Okay. But so this is the MVP. So we also have other features in mind, more nice to have features, such as binding GLN by hierarchy, implementing mechanism to improve data quality, share rich information like pictures about location, share GS1 licensee, configuring access right, and so on. And if you go to next slide, you will here have the full overview of what we have in mind. So in green, this is the boxes are related to the MVP features, and in blue, this is the features that are under assessment. But it's really up to you to influence the work in progress and to change the color of the boxes from blue to green, and call for changing the priority. So this is one of the action items we ask you as a next step. So feel free to connect with Emo to do so.
Thank you very much, Nicola, and exactly right. So this is exactly where we are now. The work is not finished, but a lot of work has been done on the features and the functionalities and the minimal viable product, the MVP. But now it's also up to you. And we have some concluding remarks before we end it up. And I still see some people coming in. If you are joining late, we will have a recording of this session available afterwards. Amber.
All right, so in terms of next steps, there's been a lot of information shared and there's a lot of moving pieces with this project. And right now we're at very pivotal points in the work with the standards, with engagement, with registry, where we need to ensure that we have all the right people in the room and that we're prioritizing things correctly. We're making sure the standards are comprehensive. And that's really where the people on this call can come into play. So as mentioned right now in the GLN modernization MSWG, you're welcome to join to that effort. We're reviewing the allocation rule standard. We're working on the changes to the GS1 general specification. And then the separate sub-team, there's the data model work. So right now looking to round out what's going to be in the first version, make sure the definitions are complete, and making sure the codeless values are exhaustive as much as possible for this first round. So if those are things you have interest in and want to be a part of, you can join the working group via that link. Also, do keep in mind that there's going to be cascading standards, updates, and implementation guidance to follow. So there's some things being talked about and looked at and requested by industry, like implementation guidance for food, changes to other standards to align it with the MSWG work, and so forth. So if you have interest there, be sure to connect. Additionally, stay engaged. If you signed up for this webinar, there is an option to get updates. If you have questions, comments, or just want to connect and find out more, definitely feel free to reach out. Specifically as it relates to the registry work, a lot of the local GS1 member organizations have GLN tools and local plans and things. We want to make sure you're connecting locally on that registry piece. So definitely reach out to your member organization, or if you are a member organization, reach out to us and we can make sure you have the right information needed to support validating and verifying the global work. If you're not sure who to reach out to myself, Hank Jan, and those on the call, and we'll put you in contact with who you need to get the answers and to make sure that this overall program is going to work the best for all the users involved. So to close this out, we do have one last poll before closing remarks, and we look like we're on time. We do use these polls to determine what our next webinar content is going to be, what we focus on, and what materials we are going to be creating next for engagement. So if you could please, once I launch this poll, select what change you're most excited about. We'll use that for future content and make sure we get the information you'd like to you. So launching that poll now. Okay, and we're to 30%, so we'll have this open for just probably 20 seconds longer.
Normally, I always see the answers coming in, and I find that very exciting. Now I don't see anything, so I'm looking forward to see the results in a moment.
Oh, it is very exciting. I'll that's why I suggested that I launch the polls, because I love this part.
Okay.
All right, we're to 71%, so let's give it a moment longer, and then we'll share these. Okay. So I'm going to share the results now, and this is really consistent with what we saw in the first session of this content. We really need to make sure everyone has a solid foundation on what those standards are and what GLN is before you can figure out what attributes you need, how it might work for your business, and how you could benefit from a registry. You need to understand what it is to start with. And that's going to be where a lot of our focus is, but we're not going to forget these other pieces. So how to see increasing adoption of GLN, what the engagement activities and opportunities are there. And of course, the registry pieces as well. We'll make sure that there's information about that. So thank you for completing the poll. I'm going to stop sharing now and then turn it back to Henk-Jan to close us out.
Perfect. Thank you very much, and thank you all for joining this this second webinar, this East webinar. I'm very excited with the turn up, and for those who are joining very late, there's a recording available, and I will stick on a bit longer if people are still turning up to share that with them. If you have any questions, I've seen some questions going on through the chat. Feel free also to use this form that you can scan, or you can follow the link here to ask us questions afterwards. We will try to answer them as quickly as we can. Thank you for joining, and a special thanks for our speakers, Glenn Chai, Florian Kriech, and Harry Smudge, for joining us and presenting their use cases and the voices from industry. It's